Hey man, thanks for tuning into another episode of Dr. Super Bowl's Selfie series in Movember in Las Vegas. And shout out to the producer, Oklahoma Doug, with a very busy and exciting January 1, 1988. The Orange Bowl. Jimmy Johnson's Miami Hurricanes beat Barry Switzer's Oklahoma Sooners, led by the playmaker Michael Irvin. They won 2014 and the national championship. 1988 January featured some great, memorable playoff moments, including the Minnesota Vikings at 8-7 on the regular season, crushing the San Francisco 49ers at 13-2 on the regular season. This was Joe Montana's third consecutive awful playoff performance, so poor that they brought in Steve Young in this game. Can you imagine that? Joe Montana being benched in a playoff game. But Anthony Carter stole the show in this game, one of the great wide receiving performances in NFL playoff history. Of course, Anthony Carter out of Michigan, also a star in the USFL with the Michigan Panthers. Also in that playoff year, it was the Redskins led by a punt return by Darrell Green defeating the Bears in Walter Payton's last football game. In the AFC, we saw the fumble. Ernest Biner fumbles at the goal line, and Denver prevails to win the AFC Championship. They'd take on the Redskins, who beat the Vikings 17-10 in the NFC title game. In Super Bowl 22, played down in San Diego, the greatest performance by an offensive line you might ever see. Timmy Smith, unheralded Timmy Smith, ran for 204. Doug Williams, the MVP, they scored 35 points in the second quarter, and they crushed John Elway and the Broncos 42-10. Interestingly, the Broncos scored the first 10 points in that game. We'll pick it up later with some of the other great sporting moments of 1988. Welcome back to the Year in Sports 1988 with Dr. Super Bowl and his Selfie series. That's me. Hey, in 1988, in the spring of 88, I was in Mr. Heaton's 6th grade class, West Seneca East Elementary, and 12 years old. And in March of 1988, we saw a very exciting Final Four with Arizona, with Steve Kerr and Sean Elliott taking on the Oklahoma Sooners, who had Grant, Blaylock, Grace, Seeger, and Stacey King. And they made it past Arizona to play in the finals against Danny Manning, Larry Brown, and the Kansas Jayhawks, who upset Duke in the semis. This was a Duke team that Coach K still had not won a championship with. My, how times have changed. In the finals, though, Kansas and Oklahoma raced out to a 50-50 first half in some super exciting basketball. But Kansas prevailed 83-79, led by a sensational performance by Danny Manning. Let's go on into this year. We go to the Triple Crown Series, and guess what? A Philly wins the Kentucky Derby on the first Saturday in May 1988, and that horse name was Winning Colors, ridden by Gary Stevens, trained by Wayne Lucas, as they outlast 49er in a dazzling front-end performance. No fluke, because Winning Colors won the Santa Anita Derby in the same way. But there was a new superstar on the scene in horse racing that year, a 3-year-old called Risen Star, son of Secretariat, and he was fantastic in the Preakness and even better in the Belmont Stakes. So we'll pick up a little bit later with the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals from 1988.
Oh, Lord.